Good afternoon. We want to welcome everyone to our first first conference. Um, I want to also open up with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank Thee again, O Lord, for what You're doing, what You continue to do. We thank You for the virtual conference that we're allowing to bring individuals together, brothers, O Lord, across the country. We thank You again, O Lord, for the provisions that has been provided, resources, Lord, that has been gathered. Thank You again. Continue to do that work, that You will get the glory. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Because of the times that we are continue to live in, I would ask join me just and as to what some of the challenges that we continue to be faced with, actually with the social, the political, culture, the economic challenges that we for. I know that when you started, we all feel we are under from a political party have best interest in any of their policies or program. Rudy, what's your thoughts on this from your perspective?
Well, from the political, social, cultural, economic, all of those areas have been challenges for our community. And so the political as it is now has just been further heightened and I think heightened through social media as everyone is able to access now. So if we're focusing in on all of the challenges and not looking at solutions, then we too can really become sucked into, the events that are happening. And whereas they need to be referenced, again, times have changed, but they haven't changed economically, politically, socially, culturally. So our job, as it always has been, is to make sure we, as men, take care of our families, take care of our communities. And so as we look toward the Get Your House in Order financial literacy,
encourage them, but also provide resources. Today is no longer feasible to stand on the corner and sing about the song that brought us over unless we engage today with the structure and the strategies that will again talk about the justice that we deserve from all aspects of the social, economic, political. We have to bring justice to our circumstances. So one of the things that I want to kind of focus on is because of this COVID-19 virus that sort of like attacked all of us, we were scheduled to have the Man Up Retreat in Sandy Cove, Maryland this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And for the last 2 years, we have shared, and actually this year was the year that we was going to look forward to 2021 as to providing the retreat. However, we decided to go and provide it this year for 2020. So next year, at the same time, the fourth weekend of August, we will be having the Man Up Retreat again in Sandy Cove, Maryland. But we're going to be also looking at bringing along this conference at the same time, so that we can have a larger area and have a larger impact as to what we're trying to present. Our CMI mission is poverty alleviation, economic empowerment, and generational wealth. The poverty alleviation, if we are not able to attack this poverty situation, we have over 140 million people that is engaged and still considered poverty recipients. Economic empowerment, as Rudy stated, we need to worry about how our economic status and our situation is from day to day, because we have to take care of ourselves, our families, and our communities, our churches, our places of worship. Generational wealth, we got to be able to create something and be able to pass it down to our families, our sons and daughters, and to our families when the Lord said, well done, our good and faithful service. We are done down here with our mission. But we also need to have some resources that we leave behind so that we're not going around with a hat in hand trying to figure out how to bury ourselves, how to have our funeral, but also how to maintain the present status, the living status that you have acquired before your departure. That's for your family. You no longer need it, but you also need to think about your family and their future. So there's a lot of situations that come about that we don't think about that. And today, you will be presented many of aspects as to how you may consider how you can do those tasks, those objectives, how you may reach those objectives. And one of the main strategies that you know is sustainability. Sustainability, we have to sustain the CMI program. And the way we intend to do that is through membership and the other aspects that I just mentioned. But membership is going to be very critical. And it also gives us the intergenerational approach, men, adults, and seniors. The boys will be 7 years old to 17 years old. Membership will be $25 per year. $25 per year. With the adults, will be 18 years old to 35 years old, and the membership per year will be $45 per year. For the seniors, it'll be 36 years old and out, $55 a year. Those are the costs for each one of those. And you will be able to access the payment, make the payment through our website. We already have that set up and it's in place. But the membership, we're going to be reaching out, advertising, marketing, pushing for memberships. But also, because of that membership status, there are a lot of benefits that you're going to hear throughout the conference as to what those benefits will look like, how you can benefit. And also, it's also a way of doing our programming. Our program will be made up of groups of 12. There will be 3 groups of youth, adults, and seniors, a facilitator, and 2 assistant facilitators. That will give us the number 12. So that no matter where we want to have a face-to-face on the ground, if we want to do it online, we'll be able to bring 1 group in or 2 groups. We don't want any groups more than 25 when we're trying to give instruction. So that's the bottom line to all of this.
Just a quick word on membership. One of the benefits of membership is, and as we're presenting a number of topics to help men get their house in order, just having the information and education, there are tons of resources out there that people have already accessed. And in my years, over the years, working with individuals enables them to maybe learn about uh, financial matters that they may not have learned, and coaching them to move on with, the implementation. So the membership is going to help us to wrap our arms around those men that are committed, and so there can be an ongoing, sustaining, systematic approach to the learning, and from the learning and the education to the implementation and application. Because there's folks that can download tons of material online, and they may know what to do but don't do. Well, the members, we will be challenging members, and members challenging themselves to do whatever it is their goals and objectives are, and so that's one of the benefits of membership, and that's why everything will be geared around membership as opposed to just doing general presentations. Whereas, and we will be doing those types of forums. The key process that we think that will help forge the growth and development of our community and our families is through the membership, and the ongoing relationship that men will be able to grow and develop. So and speaking on membership, of course, regardless of the amount of the membership dollar, we all know if it's $1, then folks say, "Well, I don't want to be a part of that. It costs $1." So Deke already outlined what the costs are, minimal costs, especially when we look at some of the benefits that are going to be offered. And one of the benefits that will be offered beginning 2021, and then this is in strong partnership with an organization, Insure America, is we have put together a program where every CMI member, every Christian Men Inc. member, will automatically receive a $1,000 policy that can be the first seed to their financial security, helping them to get their house in order by just starting with a basics plan and that they can build on. So we're real pleased with the partnership with Insure America and being able to offer the benefits of $1,000 policy at no cost to the member. At no cost to the member. So that's just one of the examples of the types of financial programs that we are looking to implement that could be a benefit to our members.
Well, I think at this time we will begin our presentation uh, based upon some of the background that we had tried to provide, so you kind of get at least a sense of where we're at and where we're going, and that we would be inviting everyone to come go with us because we on the road of life. We look at this as a three-lane highway: uh, poverty, economic empowerment, and generational wealth. And we together, we can make it happen. Together, we can succeed. And men and boys the males has always been a challenge for me. And I work with them. And I believe that we as men has got to take the lead and trying to provide the pathway forward, or be able to support in whatever way that we can, because there's many other organizations out there, but we have to be able to do our own thing and chart our own course. So we will start the presentation at this time.
Personal track looks like. What is that about? And especially when we're talking about getting your house in order, there are a whole lot to that we know as individuals, as men, what it entails. Overall, we're talking about getting your house in order, not just financially. We're talking about faith, family, finance, career, civic, health, and personal development. Now, those are the overall areas that, as a man, as an individual, that we are working on 24/7, or we should be. Now, the purpose of the Get Your House in Order Financial Literacy Conference is really to zoom in on the financial aspect. So that's what, again, what the conference is going to be geared toward, um, talking about how to get your financial house in order, if you will. And really, there are 7 key components, and we're going to be blessed with presenters that are experts and experienced in these 7 areas. Money management. What does it take to really manage your money? We're going to have someone that's going to speak on money management, credit and debt. Now, most of the folks that may be watching, that may be a non-issue for you. You got a 900 credit score and you have 0 debt. So you may not need the information regarding credit and debt elimination, but someone you know may need it. So we would encourage you, not to tune it out. How to grow your money. Now, that's a topic over the years that I've found that individuals are very much interested in. Is how can I make my money grow? I have $1,000. I want it to grow to $5,000 in 2 weeks. How can I do that? Well, right off the bat, we know there's some ways where you can do some things that may not be legal as well as viable. And so, but we're going to have someone that's going to talk about how you can grow your money safe and systematically. Then we're going to talk about an area that everyone does love to talk about, really, is tax planning. I mean, we're just coming out of the tax season, and we know everyone is just can't wait to have more conversation about taxes, especially on a personal basis. So, tax planning is important, and part of that, get your house to order. And we have someone that's going to speak to that to offer some insight as to what that all entails. And the next area would be estate planning. Now, estate planning. A lot of folks say, "Hey, I don't have an estate. I don't, I don't have billions of dollars." Well, you have an estate, even if you have a computer or an antique or books, a home. You have assets that would be part of an estate, and so we have someone that's going to really talk about estate planning. And from estate planning, what that entails, so that we really get an understanding of how that should be integrated in our overall, process of getting our house in order. Then we're going to have someone that's going to speak about legacy planning. Legacy planning is where you're planning for your children's children, where you're planning for for generations to come. And he's going to share with us what ways we can set up funds in ways that can be beneficial for our families and for our communities. Earlier, Dean Glover spoke about, we need to have a sustainable, to be able to sustain the organization. Christian Men Inc., we need to have the sustainability within our families, especially when you look at times like this. Some families are really in desperate situations locally and across the country and across the world because of all that's going on. So those that have the resources, that have learned how to manage and grow resources, can provide from a legacy standpoint for generations to come. So those are the key areas of get your house in order that the presenters are going to bring. We also have someone that's going to talk about, you want to be a homeowner. What does that take? And I think you can almost see from time to time all of the commercials about, how to buy a house, and a lot of folks aren't aware of the various programs. The key is, what does it actually take to buy a house? And so one of the presenters will actually shed light on that. So that's a get your house in order on the personal side. And financially speaking, if we're looking at money management, we're looking at credit and debt, we're looking at how to grow your money, we're looking at tax planning and estate planning, and we're looking at legacy planning. And I neglected to mention one of the key areas, although I mentioned it earlier, about the life insurance. All the assets that you may accumulate over time, if you don't protect those assets with insurance and the various types of insurance, be it life insurance, be it medical insurance, disability insurance, for an individual, be it critical illness insurance, is one of the newer programs, insurance types that's available, that people aren't aware about. Long-term care insurance. These are all ways where you've amassed, millions of dollars. Well, if you don't have any insurance to protect, you will, in case of emergencies or health conditions, you can exhaust all of those funds that you may have in your bank account. So the 7 areas, including protecting your assets, will be discussed. And those are the key points that we want to share on getting your house into order on the personal basis. Now, as I mentioned, it's 2 sides of that, get your house in order. And on the enterprise side, Deacon Glover will just give you an overview of what the enterprise, get your house in order from an enterprise standpoint, and shed a few words about that. Deacon Glover? I'm not sure, we may be experiencing some technical difficulty with Deacon Glover and giving the overview of the estate, of enterprise. So just I'll take the helm for that right now. On the enterprise side, pretty much everything that we outlined from on the personal side is having financial systems in place. During this time, there's been funds available for businesses, yet most businesses in our communities were not able to access the funds for a whole lot of reasons that's been listed. But in most cases, folks that I've spoken with that help and work with small businesses, in particular black businesses, black and brown businesses in our community, is they weren't able to really maximize the resources, the financial resources that was available because of what's going on. And bottom line was, being in business doesn't mean you wait until a pandemic hits. It's really having the systems in place, and that includes an accounting system. It includes having a financial system in place, including other areas that are beneficial to any business, operational system, communication system, IT system, and you had no IT before. Most businesses have been scrapping up right now to try to get that IT component up and running. And so, get your house in order from a business or enterprise means that you, as an enterprise, be it a business, be it a nonprofit organization, a community group, be it a faith-based organization, regardless, as an enterprise, as an institution, need to have your paperwork in order. And that's just sound business sense. So that regardless of what's going on, you're able to function. I don't think Amazon is being hurt too much. Virgin is going to the Mars. There's businesses that are going to make tons of money during this time period and have always made money. Regardless of the time, there's always businesses and enterprises that are able to identify what's happening and, more importantly, begin to see how they can maximize it by maybe repositioning themselves, by incorporating various processes in place that enables them to take advantage of the situation. So for those that are looking for your banker to call you, well, if he hasn't called you because of the day the funds were available, he's already called 100 other of his other clients. And why is that? Well, it's a whole lot of reasons, but one is revenue. So we want to grow our business so that that banker and that financial institution will be calling you up. Matter of fact, letting you know that they submitted your application as soon as it was made available. So get your house in order for the business community, the faith-based community, the communities, organizations, at large. Yes, they're being devastated right now. And there are going to be other challenges in the next year, 5 years, 10 years, 100 years. There's always going to be challenges. And so the Get Your House in Order conference for businesses really will shed light on some of the areas by example, where I hear from some entrepreneurs that will share insight on what they're doing and how they're coping. What are some of the things that they put in place, as well as those that provide resources and help to implement systems for businesses, community groups, and organizations. I know one colleague, he specializes in providing services to daycares. And during this time, those, in spite of all of the requirements, those that already were in position and had resources, they were able to make some pivots because there are needs in the areas. So get your house in order on the enterprise side. Deacon Glover, were you able to kind of chime in or anything you want to add at this point? Okay. Now, what we will be doing throughout the conference will be, hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
No, I think you pretty well covered everything. We can just gonna go on with the presentations.
Great. Great. All right. The first presentation that we have scheduled will be Get Your House in Order. And we're going to talk about money management, men mastering money. So what I want to do is take a minute to cue that up, and then we will hear from the person who will present on Get Your House in Order, Men Mastering Money. And I know this gentleman very well. I've known him for every day that he's been in this business. He's been has a background in banking. Hello? Oh, okay. He has a background in banking. Um, he has a background as a financial planner, insurance agent. He's worked in small business development, business lending, micro lending. He has a well-versed background from a financial industry standpoint. It just happens to be me. So if we're ready to go, I will begin the presentation. We're good to go. All right. Again, Christian Men Inc., as we have been talking about, has been putting on this conference, Get Your House in Order conference. And as I mentioned, I'll be speaking on men mastering money. And men mastering money. And one of the key areas that I'll be speaking on will be helping us to get to that point where we are mastering money and money isn't mastering us. But I don't want to make any assumptions. So if you would just answer these 3 questions. 1, are you a good manager of your money? Yes or no? Number 2, do you want to become a better manager of your money? Yes or no? And 3, I consider really the most important of the questions is, do you know the benefits of managing your money better? It may be obvious, but I believe there are a lot of benefits to managing your money and that we aren't aware of. But hopefully you've answered that question for yourself, and we will be asking you at some point throughout the day to respond accordingly. Now, there's a couple of topics that I'll be giving an overview on, and in order for us to begin to master our money. 1, you'll earn a fortune. Goals and objectives, financial statements, debt to income, and your next steps. So these are some of the topics that I'll be speaking on to help men master money. Now here's a questionnaire, and I know we will not be able to go through the entire exercise right now, but I just want to highlight this. And if you're interested in receiving this, if you email us, we'll make sure you get a copy of this. This exercise is actually in one of the publications that we are making available. We'll talk about that in a few. But how would you spend $100? So these are a list of areas that you could conceivably spend $1. And if you had your way, in a value standpoint, how much of that $100 would you apply toward power? How much of it for long life? How much of it for career? How much of it for fame, knowledge, respect? How much of it would you apply out of that $100 for just having peace of mind, achievement, salvation? I've had on one occasion where That was $100, and they just put the whole 100 on salvation. And again, there's no right or wrong answers, and it's what you feel of value in each one of these areas. Friendship, success, joy, security, health. How much would you actually allocate toward health? We're talking about what's going on now from a health standpoint. If you were assured, your health, how much would you allocate toward that? Family. Uh, may have family members that we haven't seen or spoken to for whatever reason. How much would you allot toward family? Wisdom, honor, popularity. We know some folks that's putting it all on popularity, and we won't go there right now. Faith, money. You want to put $100 just more on money or community. So these are one of the exercises that I use in various formats to help people kind of get a sense of what they would do with $100 in this Soaring to Success exercise. So again, if you're interested in this, just send us an email or we'll let you know how you can respond to receive this exercise. Now, here's a fact that you are going to earn a fortune over your lifetime. You are going to earn a fortune. Now, if we look at this chart, and hopefully you can see we have $1,000 earnings per month, $3,000 per month, and at the bottom I have $5,000. But let's just look at the $3,000 column. Over a 5-year period, $180,000 would have went through your hands. Over a 10-year period, $360,000. Now this may astonish a lot of folks. Now that's $3,000 per year with no increase, no cost of living increase. In 30 years, if the numbers are correct, how much would have actually came through? Over $1 million. Over $1 million would have came through your hands over a 30-year period. So if you were to look at a 2-income household, one individual earning $3,000, another earning, this is say $1,000. If we combine that, that's a substantial amount of money that's coming through our hands. It's what are we doing with it? What are we doing with the funds? Get your house in order means how much of the money that is coming through your hands are you keeping? We hear about the 1%. Well, the 1%, they're maximizing all of the tax strategies, investment strategies, creating assets and building assets, and they're sitting pretty good. They're those 2 commas and 3 commas. And now I hear there's some 4 commas, 5 commas. But the majority of people just hanging on to change. Just hanging on change. And it's a lot of times just because of lack of knowledge. They don't know what to do. And so what we hope to do is to provide some resources, some strategies and solutions that can help increase the amount of change, because pennies add up to dimes and dimes to dollars and dollars to hundreds and thousands and millions of dollars. It does take time, but it can be accomplished, especially when we look at, yes, the funds that are going through your hands. How are we maximizing that? How much of it will you keep? Well, most of us do not have financial goals and objectives written down. Now, if we were as a family saying, hey, let's take a trip, let's take a vacation. What are your financial goals and objectives? And if one of them was vacation, You know exactly where you're going, when you're going, hopefully how much you're going to spend. Um, all the particulars regarding your vacation would be broken out. Well, that's just for vacation. To get your house in order means that you put on paper or use some kind of software program on your phone or computer. There's so many resources where you can do just this to keep track to at least first document what your financial goals and objectives are. For a short term, that's less than a year, write a goal down, even if it's just one for the year. Mid-range, 2 to 5 years, at least put one goal down that you want to achieve. And for long term, and that's going to be 5 years or greater. So when you begin to write down your goals and objectives, it's easy to see if you accomplish your 1 year goal. If you write it down and a year later, if you haven't achieved it. And it's no big deal if you haven't achieved it. It just means make adjustments or do whatever was necessary, and hopefully you learn why you were not achieve it within the time period. And it very well could have been maybe you underestimated the financial requirement, and that's okay. Long term, we're going to have someone that's going to speak about retirement. So what's your retirement goal? When? How much? You need to put that down now. Even if you're 25, put down the goal when you want to retire and with how much, and at least that's the goal. Now you still have to back into that, and that's where having some assistance maybe can help provide some ways where you can grow your funds. But you need to put it down. That's one of the key areas that most folks do not do. Do not write down your financial goals and objectives. And especially in a marriage situation, you want to have the family sit down. Hey, what are we going to do as a family? What are our short-term, long-range, and mid-term goals? Now, another key aspect to get your house in order is understanding the financial statements. And believe it or not, we all engage in financial statements, but we may not know that we're engaging in financial statements. And one of the financial statements is the balance sheet. And with the balance sheet, it's simply the assets, what you own, and yet what you own minus the liabilities, what you owe, and that's going to equal your net worth. Now, again, that's your financial net worth. As far as I'm concerned, you're a child of God. You're wealthy beyond wealth. That's a belief. But a financial statement may reflect from a financial standpoint what the numbers look like in dollars and cents. But your net worth is not your worth. So let's look at the assets and liabilities. The assets are tangible things such as a house. Car can be a tangible asset, especially if it's an antique car. Jewelry, these are some of the tangible things. And intangible are things that, such as stocks and bonds, and those are the intangible things. So when we add up the assets of the tangible and intangible, then that's what we're able to determine what our asset total is. And then the other side is the liabilities. Our mortgage, what you owe as of date. The loans, unsecured student loans, private loans, credit cards, and whatever else you may have that is a liability. You want to add that up. And once you do so, you'll see again, as we said, whether it's positive or negative. And again, it's just a snapshot. It's just going to take a picture of where you're at a given point in time. Things could change, especially if one of your goals was to get out of debt. So 5 years you're out of debt, then your balance sheet would reflect a different look, and you hopefully would be in a positive standpoint. But let's look at, out of anything I may say today, and if you want to grab one nugget, this is the one nugget that I think will, without question, help you get your house in order. This is the cash flow statement. Now, most people use that other word for this. They use other terms. I like the cash flow statement. And it's real simple. For each day, how much income came in on a given day throughout the month? What was the source? And then on the other side, how much did you spend? Your outgo expenses. And if you chronicle that, if you write that down every day in on a sheet of paper, if you use a software application on your computer, your spreadsheet, whatever, if you document and write down every cent, even if you buy a newspaper, go to the dollar store and you buy one item, get a receipt, and you log that in, the cash flow statement truly will reflect over a 90-day period at a minimum, a 90-day period of where your money's going. And then that will help you to determine, whoa, I'm spending, $100 a month at this unnamed coffee shop that has awesome coffee. It's a little expensive, but I like it. But that's $100, some $200. Well, suppose you track that, and now you're deciding that one way you want to reduce your expenses by eliminating that and just buying your own coffee and making it in the morning. That may be a way where you can decrease your outgo expenses and increase the opportunity to take those dollars and apply them to some debt reduction. That's an excellent way to begin to reduce your debt. The cash flow statement, I'll challenge anyone for 90 days. If you can document all of the income that you get, hey, somebody may hand you $10 just because. And it was like they owed you $10 from 3 years ago, and so they're repaying. Yes, income to you. Document it beyond your W-2 and everything else. So I challenge each of you to document every penny that comes in and every penny that goes out. Now, it's usually easier to track the expenses. It really is. It's the income. But I'll challenge anyone for 90 days to do so. And send that to me, and I'll give you a copy of the Soaring to Success Personal Business Journal, just as a congratulations. Most people, and that means the total amount of income must equal what you receive on a monthly basis. That's from all income. And the expenses, recording all of the expenses that happen throughout the month. And so you will simply put down the amount of income and the amount of outgo, and then determine if you have a positive or negative monthly cash flow. I challenge each one of you. Now, debt to income ratio. We hear that a lot, especially when someone may be going to buy a car or get a mortgage. They want to look at what your debt to income ratio. And it simply is all of your monthly debt payments, add that up, which you've already done through the cash flow and your balance sheet, of your liabilities. So you know what that is. And let's say it's $2,000, your monthly debt, mortgage, auto, credit card. And then that number is divided by your gross income. And that's how most institutions use your gross income, because they really want you to qualify to buy that car or get that mortgage. So they'll use the gross, even though that's not what you're bringing home. And we all know it's your net. So with the net income, you are working with what you're actually getting. So if we divide your debt by the income, that's about 33%. And that's what the debt to income ratio. What is the key? You want to get, of course, your monthly debt down to zero and increase your monthly income so that that debt to income decreases on a percentage basis as your income grows over time. So that's the debt to income ratio. Bottom line, if you again have no debt, then you have an excellent debt to income ratio, 0 to 100%. And most financial institutions love that. You probably can think of a couple folks who have zero debt and fall in that category. Now, again, we're going to have someone that's going to talk a little bit about debt and credit, but um, I said debt, that's where you owe. Some folks that have a credit card and they pay it off every month. Well, yes, it's a debt, but if they're religiously paying it off, then that's a good thing. But this is the debt to income ratio. And again, it's one of the recommended ways to get your house in order to begin to reduce your debt. Now, those are just some of the key points that we hope you've gleaned. I hope you've learned something today to make you a better master of money. Now the question is, do you want to become a better master of your money? Hopefully you say yes, as we all should. And do you want to learn how to become a better master of money so you and your family can experience the benefits? Again, we hope that's a yes. And if that is a yes, then we're encouraging you to, as Deacon Glover said, as far as membership, become a member. Become a member of Christian Men Inc. so that you can access more of the benefits that's available as a member of Christian Men Inc., but accessing some of the financial uh, education, financial literacy programs that we have. What I cover today is very just to scratch the surface in order for men mastering money. But really, there's a whole curriculum that we have just regarding financial planning. And we hope that you will participate in that. I want to thank you for participating and get your house in order. Um, Mastering Money, Men Mastering Money. My name is Rudy Ellis, and you can reach me at the information here. My mobile number is 856-534-7708, or reach me at info@eternalfinancialsolutions.com. Again, thank you, and I thank Christian Men Inc. for all that they are doing regarding get your house in order.
Dad, one sec, you're muted.
Well, thank you. We have a presenter in Larry Daniels who's going to speak on growing your money. Now, we know this is an area where everyone wants to learn how to grow the money. I even speak to Larry on occasion when I have a few dollars that I can rub together and say, "Hey, Larry, what can I do? Give me a quick tip for a stock," which he doesn't do that. Quick tips. So, just want to introduce Larry Daniels. He's out of Philadelphia, and he works with Edward Jones. And without any further ado, Larry Daniels.
And we want to welcome everyone to the Get Your House in Order forum here. It's all about building wealth and growing your money. We want to thank Christian Men Inc. for creating this opportunity for us to learn and learn some practical ideas and applications that can help us achieve our goals of building some wealth in our family, in our community, fundamental in the Black community, which, you know, that's a really critical part of what we're trying to do here. And so I'm Larry Daniels. I'm a financial advisor with Edward Jones Investments, and I work with individuals to help them achieve their financial goals. I just want to share some ideas. My focus today is on retirement planning. I just want to give you some ideas that might help you out in terms of, you know, your own individual retirement planning and building wealth. So these are some of the areas that we're going to go into. Retirement age, you know, when do you plan to retire? What is your budget for retirement? What assets have you accumulated for retirement? What other sources of income? And overall, do you feel like you're on track? So when we look at retirement age, this is when we look at building a retirement plan. It starts with what age would you like to retire? You know, what I find is as I work with clients, too many people retire too early. Why do I say that? Because they end up going back to work, or they end up getting a part-time job, or they're looking for some other forms of income or some other ways to spend their time. You know, you really got to be thoughtful about what age I want to retire. That's where you start at. And frankly, don't be afraid to work later, okay? I mean, you look at the candidates run for president, I mean, they're taking on the toughest job in the world, and they're starting in their mid-70s. So what's with us trying to retire at 65? Folks are retiring later. Folks are working later. Now, that don't mean you have to do what you're currently doing. You can go do something else. Maybe start a business, maybe make a difference in someone's lives in the community, whatever. But be careful retiring too early. That might not be the right strategy. And then the other question is, as we plan for retirement, what age would you like to plan for retirement? What age does it end for you, okay? In our planning, we run retirement through age 90. Maybe you want to run it longer or shorter, but those are very key inputs into building the retirement plan. So the next stage is, well, how much do I want to spend in retirement? One of the challenges in retirement is not only do we have expenses, but expenses continue to grow through retirement. So we want to start basically with, well, how much do I need to live on? And what is that? Is that $3,000 a month, $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month? I mean, you got to keep it realistic, understanding that whatever budget you start with inflation, those numbers are going to continue to increase. You know, we start planning for clients at 65, 67, 70, and 10 years later, what started at, you know, $40,000 a year, now it's $80,000 a year. So you have to take into account what the budget is. And that also talks about, so when we start with the budget, we want to make sure the first thing you want to do is deal with your debt, okay? The first thing to do is to start paying your debt down. What I find is the folks who have the most successful retirement plans are the ones who have a very low cost of living in terms of their monthly budget. And the reason why it's low is most of them have eliminated their debt, and all they really have is living expenses. Then we deal with living expenses. We want to discern between necessary and discretionary. Necessary are things you have to pay. You have to pay rent, have to pay mortgage if you still have that, have to make car payments, utilities. Those are things you have to pay. And discretionary spending gets into vacation and travel, maybe dining out, some of those things. Okay. So you want to, have a handle on, how is your budget going to be allocated? And because you want to have some discretionary spending, you want to be able to enjoy retirement. So you don't want to be locked in to just fixed expenses. And the other thing is, once again, don't forget about inflation. The reason why people invest in stocks is because of inflation. Inflation has proven over the years that it outperforms inflation, where, we like to keep our money in CDs and the savings accounts. Those don't keep up with inflation. If inflation is at 3% and you're earning 2%, your net real return in our world is minus 1%. Okay, so we have to really think about making sure we have our money in the vehicles that will outpace inflation and grow for you. So now you want to start with, okay, now we've determined what age we want to retire. We worked on our budget. Now we need to look at what we have. So first we start with, what assets do you have? Do you own a retirement account? Do you own an IRA account? Do you own a retirement account at work? In a lot of cases, we find that clients accumulate assets in their 401k at work or their 403b at work. The difference being a 401k is for retirement plans that are private, for private companies. They're called a 401k, and the 403b is for nonprofits. If we want to go further, if you work for the city, that's a 457. They're all tax codes. They all mean the same thing. Basically, you can put money away on a pre-tax basis and defer paying the taxes on the growth until you pull it out later on. They start forcing you to pull it out at age 70.5. If you pull it out before 59.5, it's a 10% penalty. So what assets do you have? Okay. Then do you own an IRA? Because an IRA, it has different components to it. So when we move the retirement assets from a company, that's called a rollover. If you own an IRA and we're moving that over, that's called an IRA transfer. So we want to make sure we differentiate between the two, and make sure we understand whether you have a traditional or Roth IRA, because both are different. In a traditional IRA, where you have tax-deferred growth, at some point when you start pulling that money out, it's going to be taxable. Versus a Roth IRA, at some point, it also has tax deferral, but at some point when you pull money out of the Roth, it is tax-free. Okay, so we want to certainly understand the difference between the traditional and the Roth IRA, and how that can be used later on, even for your estate planning. A Roth IRA has some benefits for that strategy. And then what is your risk tolerance? Because this money that you've accumulated, whether it's in a company plan or an IRA plan, now we have to consider, we have to grow it. I mean, fundamentally, a financial advisor such as myself takes these assets and will help create an income stream for you. Okay, so we had to find out what's your risk tolerance and help us structure the portfolio. If you have a low risk tolerance, well, you got to accept a low rate of return, and so you might run out of money. So what we got to do is find that balance between your risk tolerance and then what's necessary for those assets to fill a gap in between the income that you need and the expenses that you have. And then finally, what's your portfolio strategy? So risk tolerance plays right into portfolio strategy. Basically, how are your assets allocated between safe money and, let's say, volatile money? Safe money might be cash. It might be fixed products, fixed annuity, or maybe even bonds. Those are fixed. And then, of course, we have equity assets or stocks. And we have different asset classes. We have large companies, medium-sized companies. We call it large cap, mid cap, small cap. So we want to develop a portfolio strategy that takes into account your risk tolerance, that is going to grow and maintain enough assets to kick you off a stream of income. Typically, we might pay, I can pay 3-4% of a lump sum and still grow the portfolio. So in a lot of cases, companies aren't paying pensions anymore. And so the assets that accumulated and the income stream that comes from there is quite important. And in some cases, we might recommend an annuity, okay, which is guaranteed lifetime income. But we want to make sure that we have the right strategy. We don't want to put all of our money in annuity. You don't want to do that because you're going to tie your money up and you're going to lack the liquidity that you might need. Okay, then Social Security obviously plays a big part of the income that we get. So some of the questions are, hey, when should I start taking it? I notice a lot of people start taking it early. You can take it as early as 62, but that may or may not be the best strategy. What I would say is, if you absolutely need money because you don't have it, you might not have any choice. But if there's any way you can wait, you want to take it at full retirement age. And if you have it where you can even wait longer, you might even want to wait to age 70, because I have charts that show historically, if you live into your 80s, you will have received significantly more money at full retirement Social Security versus age 62. And then even more if you waited to age 70. The difference is that much. So you may want to make sure you get advice before you don't just be so quick to take Social Security. Make sure you get advice, have somebody help you run the numbers, because there's a significant financial benefits if you can wait. You know, how much will it be? Okay. And certainly when you take it, dictates how much it's going to be. And once you turn it on, that's it. So that becomes a very critical part of your income stream to pay your expenses. Now, do you have a spouse? That's important to understand, because if you have a spouse, at yours or her death, it impacts the whole Social Security piece. Fundamentally, if you lose a spouse, the surviving spouse has an option to take the higher remaining Social Security income. So, and I can get into some detail, but having a spouse is a consideration as you consider your income strategy around Social Security. And then as we talk about the income component, you know, we want to look at what other retirement income do you have. Some will have a pension. If you work for the city, you have a pension. If you work for the state, federal government, you have a pension. If you work for the school board, you'll have a pension, okay? And some of them are quite attractive, okay? So God bless you. But a lot of private companies are getting out of that business, and they're replacing it with what you said, matching contributions to the 401k or to the 403b to help you with that. So in most cases going forward, we're going to have to be responsible for our own retirement income. We can't count as much more on the pension. Certainly if you have it, it's a great thing. When you combine your pension and your Social Security, it gives you a nice, strong base of income that you can count on throughout retirement. Then do you have any passive income, such as, you know, real estate income? A lot of folks own real estate. We want to take that income into account as we build out your retirement plan, your retirement analyses. And that's a positive thing. Some of us are forced to get back in the market because there's not enough income for the expenses, and then take on part-time employment. Okay, sometimes that's necessary. Once again, don't be afraid to do that. If you're not for anything, it's healthy mentally. You don't want to retire and just sit home and watch TV. You know, you want to retire and have a productive life. Okay, and then do you own a business? Okay, if you have a business, that might mean that you're going to work longer than the average person that works for someone else. You know, certainly in my case with my own practice, I probably work as long as I can. I mean, it's not as burdensome. You're your own boss in a lot of cases. So there's some significant benefits when you own your business to saving for retirement and using some retirement plans that are specific to businesses. And then, of course, there's some obvious benefits to retirement income. If you can keep your business alive and, you know, retire partly, or maybe your business doesn't require as much input as you grow longer with it, that can be a very positive asset to your retirement plan. And so the bottom line is, are you on track? Okay, the bottom line is, are you on track? And if you're not on track, don't sweat it. There are other options. And some of the options that we recommend to our clients, well, hey, one, you got to work longer. Can't retire based on what you've been saying here. And I feel you when you say it, but the numbers don't add up. So you may have to work a little longer, okay? Another solution when we add the numbers up and you're not on track is, you know, you got to reduce your budget. You got to spend less, okay? And certainly we got to reduce debt. Thirdly is we can take more risk with the investments. In other words, expose it to more equities to get a higher rate of return and have more money with your investments. And the last option also fails, you got to save more, okay? So one of these four options are great solutions for solving retirement problems where it comes up short, okay? So I think that's it. Once again, my name is Larry Daniels. I'm a financial advisor with Edward Jones Investments in Philadelphia. I'm located at 7151 Germantown Avenue. If you have any specific questions you'd like to ask me, my telephone number in my office is 215-242-2402. So once again, we want to thank Christian Manake. I want to thank Deke for all his work. And we encourage you to have enjoy your time with it and learn something from it and make the most of it. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Sean Smith, National Marketing Director with Insure America. And first of all, I'd like to thank Christian Men Inc. for allowing me to speak to you guys today for what I consider to be a very important talk about getting your house in order and protecting your assets, which of course, you know, obviously all you guys being men, you are very, very important and essential asset to your families. So we're going to talk about life insurance and the importance of making sure that you have life insurance. One of the products that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to have my focus mainly on pre-need. But let me tell you a little bit about what we do here at Insure America. So Insure America, we are a brokerage firm here in the Philadelphia area, or I should say in the Philadelphia area. We've been around for about 30 years or so 30 years of experience, let's just say it that way. And then the fact that we're licensed in over 13 states, so chances are, if you are at this seminar, we can possibly get you some insurance if you need to come through our brokerage. We are a full service insurance company. That means basically we can find a product that can suit pretty much any need as well as fit into any budget. So our specialty, I would say one of our specialties is definitely dealing with final expense and final expense products. So products that are designed to take care of your final expenses. I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with the typical final expense product. Many companies out there that sell that. But some of the unique things that our company does is burial trust, and then also something called a pre-need. We believe in doing insurance in a traditional fashion, which is we want to make sure that we are eliminating the debt first. And the debt that we're talking about is not necessarily credit card debt or debt like that, but the debt that's associated with a funeral cost. When someone passes away, it pretty much creates a debt, an unexpected debt for a lot of families that they're not prepared for. So we believe in covering that debt first and then setting up additional insurances to cover some of those other final expenses. So let's talk about pre-need and how it does exactly what I just described. So pre-need product, it's almost exactly the way that it sounds. It's basically you're prearranging every detail of a funeral. But don't be confused with prearrangement. Prearrangement, you can actually go into a funeral home. In a funeral home, they will actually, basically ask what is your, particular request for a funeral. They'll basically write that, whole request form up. And then what happens is you basically will have payments to make sure you meet whatever expenses that prearrangement was going to cost your family. Pre-need insurance is a little different. Well, it's very different. Because number one, it's different because it's insurance. It basically will cover you in the event that something happens, depending on your health. It could cover you immediately. And in the least case scenario, it will cover you on what they call a graded basis. And I'll explain that a little bit more as we go through the slide. But the point is with a prearrangement, a lot of times what happens is that you'll have a bill, let's say the funeral is $10,000. And what happens is that the family is now making payments to that funeral home. Well, if that person were to pass on, God forbid, before those payments were completed, guess what? That funeral is not paid for. That is not what we're talking about. We're talking about pre-need insurance. It will cover you, in this case, the asset. And if you have good health, as I said, immediately. So you did all those prearrangements, but if God forbid something were to happen to you, let's just say, again, God forbid, let's say something were to happen to you in the next year, basically your family would not have an out-of-pocket expense because we prearrange for everything. So we've taken out the stress of what is generally associated with a funeral. And also the fact that we've locked in the pricing of today. So we're taking advantage of what things will cost today because we understand that things are going to cost a lot more in the future. So, and those future prices will actually be upheld by the funeral home and prayerfully, like I said, something you don't need right away. Let's say, 2-3 decades from now, that same funeral price that we locked in today would be upheld or honored at time of need. So now, what is it doing? And I slightly mentioned it, but let me get into it a little bit more. And what a pre-need is really doing is it's alleviating your family some of the financial and emotional stress that's going to be associated with planning a funeral. Obviously, when someone passes away, there's a tremendous amount of stress that's involved, losing a loved one and having to, continue life without that person, not to have, their death exacerbated by the fact that you don't have the money in place, or you didn't take care of the details that that the loved one would want during that time. And in reverse order, you not taking care of the details so that your family doesn't have to be bogged down with that emotional and financial stress when that time comes. So let's talk about some of the benefits, though, of a pre-need. Well, we've definitely seen some of the benefits, but in terms of, some of the value proposition of what a pre-need offers versus some of your, and again, I don't want to use traditional, but typical final expense policies that you may be familiar with. One is that no one can be denied. So that is definitely not typical with a regular life insurance policy, because you can be denied for many, many reasons with a regular life insurance policy. One major one, one of our clients, they had a situation where they had a loved one who had, a stroke, and actually they had multiple strokes. Well, in a situation like that, you can't actually get insurance. There's not many insurance companies that want to cover that risk. But with a pre-need, because there's very few health questions and the fact that no one can be denied, we were able to get that person coverage. Now, generally, we think of pre-needs and we think of life insurance and we associate it with older people. Well, it's not always older people. We also had a client that was much younger, in their 30s. Unfortunately, they had a renal issue, so issue with their kidneys. If you look on any insurance application, you'll see right away someone with a kidney issue. Very few insurance companies are willing to cover that risk. Well, with a pre-need policy, guess what? They can actually get the insurance coverage that they need. And then also schizophrenia is a big one. Most insurance companies will not cover schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, things of that nature. Well, with a pre-need policy, guess what? You can actually get coverage. Now, as I did say, it is based on age and health, just like all insurance policies. However, because of the fact that no one can be denied, chances are you may fall into the first day covered category, which basically means the first day that we write this policy, you are covered. So for example's sake, policy is $10,000. Once again, God forbid something were to happen to you in year one, your family would get the full face amount because you are qualified for first day coverage. Now, if there are some health issues, well, the worst case scenario is you would have a graded policy. And graded just means that over a 2-year period, we will gradually grade your benefit up until it reaches the full amount at the 2-year mark. So again, if it was a $10,000 policy, by year number 2, the family will receive the full $10,000. But if we go in reverse order, so let's just say at the first year mark, you had it for 1 year, maybe the family is only getting about 70% of the face value. And then as we back it down into maybe, the first 6 months, maybe the family is only getting about 30%. Each policy could be slightly different, but you understand the point. The policy is going to gradually grade up until it reaches the full amount at the 2-year mark. And then at that point, it cannot be denied for any reason. The family will get the full amount of the policy. Now, another key feature is the fact that it's irrevocably assigned to a funeral home. That is actually a plus. What that means is that the proceeds are going to be made available to the funeral home immediately upon death. Why is that so key? Because obviously when someone passes away, there's a time sensitivity that's involved with that. In funeral homes, unfortunately today, a lot of folks are looking for monies in various places. Funeral homes are, I hate to say it, but they're businesses like many businesses, and they're not going to operate if they're not certain that they're going to actually receive the money. Just because you have an insurance policy does not mean that that funeral home is necessarily going to get the money. The money comes in from the insurance policy, it goes to the family. Now the family has to basically, make those funds available to the funeral home. Well, with a pre-need, guess what? The proceeds go directly to the funeral home. So the funeral home definitely, they have a sense of urgency and a sense of priority and your family's priority in mind, because the proceeds came directly to them. A lot of times they can actually move without actually having the death certificate, which is required for most funeral homes. So the point is that the funeral home has the money in their hands immediately, so they start working on your behalf. And also the fact that because it's irrevocably assigned to a funeral home, in life, should you need, let's say, Medicaid, and you have to qualify for Medicaid, well, one thing that they look at your asset columns. Believe it or not, the cash inside of the whole life policy can count in the asset column. Whereas in a pre-need policy, because it's assigned to the funeral home, they don't look at that as in your asset column. But the tool, insurance as a tool, is basically there for your family, again, at time of need. Another great thing about pre-need is, unlike a regular final expense, or again, final expense that you're most familiar with, you don't have to have a premium for the rest of your life. You don't have to pay that bill for the rest of your life. You can actually pay it off in 1, 3, 5, 10 years, or 20 years. So let's say, as an example, you're 50 years old right now, and you get a pre-need policy. Well, guess what? You can pay that off in 10 years. So at age 60, you don't have a bill anymore. That's one less bill you have to worry about. But the greatest thing about it is the policy is fully intact for the rest of your life. So at time of need, that policy is available for your family. But again, you're 50, let's pray that you have longevity. My grandfather lived well into his 90s. So for the next 30 years, there was no bill for your final expense, or particularly for your funeral costs. And at time of need, because of the way the policy actually grows, the growth component inside the policy, things are going to cost a lot more than they cost today. You prearrange, you set it up already today. 30 years from now, the price is actually more. Those same goods and services that you selected are going to cost a lot more 30 years from now. But guess what? The pre-need has more than enough money in it to be able to take care of, all those requests of, let's say, 2020. And then the fact that the policy can be transferred to a different funeral home. Maybe you decide to move out of the area. You set up here, you selected a funeral home, and let's just use my city, for example. You selected a funeral home in Philadelphia. Well, maybe you move down south. Maybe you have a lot of family. You want to retire in that area. Well, guess what? The policy can be transferred to another funeral home, so you don't have to worry about that. Now, if anything I said you don't fully understand, listen, we can always be contacted through, some of our contact information, which you can see our website there, insureamerica.com. You can actually follow us on Facebook or even on Instagram. And of course, Rudy Ellis being so gracious and allowing us to speak to you today. He's a direct contact that has access directly to our firm. So we're more than happy to answer any questions about pre-need, as well as any other insurance needs that you may have. I thank you for you guys again giving me the opportunity to speak to you. God bless, and we'll see you soon.
Graphic.
That was great information from Sean Smith. He's with Insure America and one of our partners with the membership program that we're offering for all of our Christian Mending members, that $1,000 benefit. So next up will be Tyson Price. Tyson is going to speak on improving our credit.
Hi, my name is Tyson Price, and I'm just thankful. And I just want to give a shout out to Get Your House in Order, Financial Literacy and Virtual Conference, and Christian Men Inc. Just for an excellent job of bringing financial literacy to the community. And my name is Tyson Price. I'm a president CEO of Global Capital Group and been financial literacy and education for over 20 years. The purpose of this is to have a conversation on improving your credit. And how important credit is in our life, debt, and also managing that debt. Next slide, please. So get your house in order, improving your credit. I want everyone to know that this is an educational presentation, just so that you can get an understanding of your rights. 60 Minutes did a CBS News special a few years ago on improving your credit in the credit reporting industry, and that there's over 40 million mistakes. And the question is your credit report accurate? Your credit, your score, and the question is, what are your rights, right? So the question is, are you plagued with foreclosure on your credit, collections, charge-offs, repossessions, medical bills, inquiries, late payments, judgments, tax liens, negative settlements, identity theft, fraud, or errors? Those are all things that affect your credit report and also affect your ability to get new credit. So we have an opportunity, and from an education standpoint, is so that you can fix your credit, impact your score, and also be able to get access to mortgages, additional credit lines, business credit, and what have you. Cash is king, but also credit makes the world go round. Next slide. So this is really what's interesting. A lot of times we hear things about our FICO score, but what a lot of times we might not understand is exactly what goes into our FICO score. So I want everyone to understand that your credit score is determined by 5 factors: 35% of payment history, 30% of the amount owed, 15% of the length of the history, 10% new credit, and 10% of the types of credit that you use. Statistically, 45% of college students are still in debt 18 years after college. 52% of adults in America have not checked their credit score in the past year. And also, when it comes to relationships, and unfortunately, 50% of all marriages in the United States and divorce end as a result of finances. 43% of all women and 32% of all men said that their spouse or mate or significant others' credit score is important. Next slide. So how does credit impact you? Well, based off your score, all right, we'll talk about a score in a second. Excellent credit to bad credit can actually determine your mortgage rates based off of how much interest you pay over time. So if you have a decent credit and you're paying a low 3% rate, well, you're going to save yourselves hundreds of thousands of dollars of interest payments over time. Good credit, the same house, you're going to pay $239,479 back in interest payments based off of a $150,000 loan to purchase a home. Decent credit, you're going to pay back over $245,000. And then bad credit, you're going to pay over $283,319 more in interest payments. So your score matters not just in terms of just being able to gain access to, credit, but also the interest that you're going to pay over time and how long you're going to be paying that interest. And are we going to be a slave to debt all our entire lives? Because the quicker that you pay off your debt, the freer that you are. Let's talk about auto loan rates. Well, if you want to purchase a car, If you have excellent credit, you pay almost 30, 40, close to $30,000 less in interest payments. Same thing with credit cards. That 17% hypothetically is what you would get at excellent credit. Bad credit, 25.4%. Now, this is what's interesting. Because of the way in which the analytics today, the research that's available today, credit is being checked for insurance rates, being checked for your employment, being checked, for just about, anything that has to do with anything with your home. So just think, your insurance rates are higher based off of your FICO score and as well as your credit. Opening up a bank account today, they check your credit. So it's really important to understand how interest payments and debt over time and the thousands and thousands of dollars that you pay to interest, not your principal, impacts your life. So next slide. So let's talk about our scores. So at 579 or less is considered will be considered bad credit. Lenders view you as a very risky borrower, and your FICO score, this right here represents the lowest 20% of the U.S. consumers. All right, 580 to 669. Some lenders will approve loans with this score, especially if you're applying for a home. All right, 670 to 739. Most lenders consider this a good score. 740 to 799. Lenders view you as a very dependable borrower. Now, I've been in the mortgage and finance business now, which is really incredible, for 27 years. And right now in the United States, mortgage guidelines are changing. So Chase Manhattan Bank actually will not even consider you for a loan unless you have a 720 FICO score. Think about that for a second in a conforming space. And then excellent, great credit is 800. Lenders view you as an excellent borrower. And that's where we want to be. So we want to get into that 67 and over, but really want to be in the soft spot of 740 to 799 in our FICO score rate. So next slide, please. So the credit range. So let's talk about the credit score range. We kind of talked about this briefly. Quality for best rates, we went over that. Usual qualify for best interest rate. So it's excellent, very good, above average, average, below average, poor, very poor, and worse. So I just want to give you kind of a color coordinated idea of where you're at and where a large part of the U.S. population is at in the credit conversation space. Next slide. So what can you do about it is the question. And I want everyone on this conference call, this Zoom, with our great organization to know that you have rights. Know your rights. It's called the Easy 609 Credit Repair. You can Google this 609 Credit Repair. And the secret is this: you are protected under federal law. That there's a federal law, not just a loophole, that removes all negative accounts every time. And this is really important, that the Section 609 of the Fair Credit Reporting Act does not care whether the negative account is valid or not. The letters dispute the credit reporting agency's right to report the adverse account, not whether or not the adverse account is valid. So you have the big three, TRW, you have Experian, you have Experian, you also have the Equicredit. Those firms have never been able to get the right to actually report on your credit report. They're for-profit agencies who collect content information, and the validity of the content, that's not their job to check out. And I want everyone to understand, if it's 1 cent incorrect, it is invalid and it has to come off. Now, if there's debt and credit that you may owe or be responsible for, you can negotiate that directly with the creditors. But even still, if it's 1 cent incorrect, it has to come off your credit report. And that actually boosts your credit score, it boosts your usage, and it also helps clean up any derogatory credit that's inaccurate, so that you can free yourself from any derogatories. Because if the world was to identify and look at you as a client or a customer, your credit report as an adult is your report card, if you will. So if you're applying for something, people analyze you and look at your capability as a business person and as an entrepreneur and as a person, unfortunately in the business world, by what your credit looks like, whether they have a conversation with you or not. So that's your calling card to the business world. Next slide. So I'd like to just give you some free resources so that you can just kind of do some research on your own. We have a lot more detailed presentation. We can go into the various strategies and nuances on credit as well as business credit. But let's look at the free resources and tool. I kind of put this together so that you could actually verify a lot of the information that we're speaking to you about today. If you go to www.experian.com, you're entitled to a free credit report every year, and that's Experian's direct website. And let me say a few things about the various credit aggregators like the Credit Karmas and different firms out there. They're getting all their information from Experian. So they're very good companies. They provide a service, but go directly to the credit reporting agencies and pull your credit directly. That way, you know you're getting the real-time data, and don't shy away from it. Just know what's happening and what's going on out there. Your ID could be stolen. Somebody could be using your credit. So it's important for you to know exactly in real time what's happening. All right. Also, too, for those who may want to build credit, those who may want to use credit cards, but may be a part of more of a savings approach. You can go to www.creditcards.com. Secured. These are all websites that I've used over the years to help clients, and you can apply. And there's a list there of prepaid credit cards that you can pretty much everyone gets approved, and that will use those credit cards. And what will happen is prepaid credit cards work like this. Say you deposit $500 on a prepaid credit card. Every time you use that prepaid credit card, it reports positive transactions and positive credit usage on your credit report. And that way, if you have bad credit or no credit at all, because that can be an issue as well, people can see, the business community can see positive credit being reflected on your credit report. This is the next link is consumer.ftc. Sample letters on disputing your errors on your credit report, because you can dispute, especially with the 609 forms, you can dispute the validity of credit, and they have 30 days to do the research and send you back a notice on your credit, and that credit has to come off. Any net derogatories have to come off by law. It has to come off your credit report. And Forbes.com, Forbes magazine, has a really great list of credit cards and best secured credit cards. So some of this information well, really all this information is in the public domain, but we just kind of wanted to have a conversation with the Christian men about credit, what you can do in terms of exercising your rights. And also what's really important is that you have tools and resources that you can take. And what's really important is to educate yourself. I also do credit restoration, credit repair, business credit. And sometimes it's important to have an expert. I always tell a person, people can say, well, look, I can do it myself. And that's true, you can do it yourself. But one of the things I always ask a person is, would you do open heart surgery on yourself? No, you would get a doctor who's proficient and skilled and as a surgeon. So same thing applies for me, as far as I'm concerned, in the business world. Seek out an expert firm, someone who knows, what they're doing, which can help your learning curve down in terms of you exercising your rights to protect your credit. So with that being said, appreciate Christian Men for inviting me. My name is Tyson Price of Global Capital Group. That's my email link right there, and I can be reached at 267-275-7967. Thank you very much, and hopefully this information was valuable to you.
I want to thank Tyson Price for that great presentation on reducing credit and debt. I want to introduce Larry Butler, who's going to help you learn how to buy a house. Larry Butler.
So you want to be a homeowner. Well, Black home ownership matters. It wasn't that long ago when the mortgage crisis was upon us that Black home ownership fell from somewhere around 49% down to 41%. This meant that the worth in Black America lost billions and billions of dollars. So now we want to reclaim that value, because what was those values used for? To help send our kids to school, to help start businesses. So it's very important that we create home ownership, and more so important that we create Black home ownership. So today we just want to touch base on a few bullet points in terms of the home buying process. Let us begin. My name is Lawrence Butler, and I am an associate broker with the Home Real Estate Professionals, LLC. Been in this business for approximately 29 years, and it has been my pleasure to help many, many, many people become homeowners. So I'm looking forward, again, to sharing that information with you as you begin your start on home ownership. So what does it mean to be a homeowner? Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about home buying programs. We're going to talk about basic eligibility, mortgage categories, fees, charges, and closing costs. And then we'll just finish up with a couple of tips in buying a home. So, what it means to be a homeowner. Well, the responsibilities that you will have as a homeowner are a major consideration. As a renter, if the roof in your apartment leaked and there was an electrical or plumbing problem, you call a landlord who would arrange to have the problem fixed. There will be no landlord to call if problems arise in your home. You must make the repairs or pay a contractor to do the repairs for you. Now, as a condition of your mortgage, you are required to keep your home well maintained and in good repair. Keep the outside appearance acceptable to the public. Keep all plumbing, heating, and electrical systems in proper working order. And there are financial advantages homeowners have that are not available to renters. You may deduct your mortgage interest and your real estate taxes on your federal income tax each year. Plus, as your home appreciates in value and you pay down the amount owed on your mortgage, you will accumulate equity in your home. Home buying programs. Well, we are not going to be so specific in the programs because they change on a regular basis. And what might be a program today may not be a program tomorrow. But I am going to suggest to you, as part of the home buying process, that you seek housing counseling. And at that time, the housing counselor will be able to give you information on what current home buying programs are available. So once you start your journey, what's basic eligibility for buying a home? Well, the home you purchase should be your principal residence. This means that you intend to make the house your permanent home rather than a second home or rather than a investment or commercial use property. And in eligibility, you need to take into consideration your credit. You should have a satisfactory history of paying your loans and charge accounts on time. Your credit report issued by local credit bureaus show the current status of your installment loans, your mortgages, and revolving charge accounts. The record of payment for open and paid off accounts, and a public records check. Now, if you have no credit, some lenders will accept what they call alternative credit sources. And this is bills that you make a monthly payment on. For example, your car insurance or your cell phone bill. They may not be recorded on a credit report, but if you can demonstrate a payment history showing that you've made those payments on time every month, you can sometimes use that to help meet the credit criteria for getting a mortgage. And then there's affordability. You must qualify for the loan in terms of your income as it relates to your outstanding monthly obligations. Now, your lender, the bank or the mortgage company, will calculate the percentage of gross monthly income required for your mortgage payments. Normally, they look for you to spend somewhere around 28 to 30% of your monthly income towards your housing needs, meaning your mortgage payments, your homeowner's insurance, your real estate taxes. And these calculations, they're called underwriting ratios. Your lender will be able to tell you at the mortgage interview exactly what debts must be included in the calculation of underwriting ratios. They take a look at your credit report, which will itemize what your debts are. And so looking at your credit report, looking at your income are the basics for your basic eligibility. And then there's mortgage categories. Well, this reflects the different types of mortgages that are available to you. And the first one we'll talk about is what we call an ARM, ARM, which stands for adjustable rate mortgage. An adjustable rate mortgage is an instrument in which in the beginning, the interest rate is very low, but over the term of the mortgage or over a certain period of the mortgage, the interest rate can raise. So you may end up with a high interest rate in the end. And then you have conventional mortgages. Well, mostly conventional mortgages are set aside, or I shouldn't say set aside, I should just say mostly you'll find people who have medium to good credit scores eligible for a conventional mortgage. It normally requires a minimum of a 5% down, and as I stated, a better FICO score. And the appraisal for a conventional mortgage is normally thought to be less stringent than the FHA appraisal. So most lenders will allow the seller of the property to give you, the buyer, up to 3% of the sale price towards your closing costs. However, the seller has to agree to that. Then you have FHA insured mortgages. These are mortgages that are insured by the Federal Housing Administration, we call FHA, and they require a down payment of 3.5%. The good thing about FHA mortgages is that because the FHA guarantees the mortgage, they don't give you the money, but they guarantee the mortgage to the lender, that they go an extra mile, what we call loss mitigation services, to help you keep your house or to save your house when and if you experience financial difficulties. So FHA mortgage does have its benefits. Also, FHA will allow the seller to give you up to 6% towards of the sale price towards your closing costs. Remember, conventional mortgage is up to 3%, but FHA will allow up to 6%. For example, if the house you're buying is $100,000, then you can ask the seller to give you up to $6,000 to help you with your closing costs. Obviously, that is a very good benefit. And then you have fixed rate mortgages. That's where the interest and the principal will always remain the same. There will be no changes. The only thing that will change in a mortgage, monthly mortgage payment, will be your homeowner's insurance or your real estate taxes if there are raises in those items. And then we have a VA guaranteed mortgage. Well, this is exclusively for veterans. The Department of Veterans Affairs, they guarantee the loan. Again, they don't give the money, but they will guarantee to the bank or the mortgage company that the loan will be paid. And what happens is if you were to default, the VA would then make the lender whole. The good thing about this also is that you can finance up to 100%. I'm doing no down payment requirement of the sale price. And the VA charges what we call a funding fee. However, that also can be financed into your mortgage. So you can literally get into a VA mortgage with no money. Then you have what's called a RD guaranteed mortgage. Well, if you plan on buying a farm or living in a rural area, you may want to explore this type of a mortgage. It's guaranteed by the Rural Development Division of the United States Department of Agriculture. And these are loans that help low and moderate income people, applicants, to purchase adequate housing in eligible rural areas. And those loans can be up to 100% of the appraised value of the property plus the guarantee fee. If the appraised value supports it, certain closing costs can also be included in the mortgage amount. So if you plan on buying a farm, this is something you would want to look into. Then you have interest-only mortgages, and then last but not least, you have subprime mortgages, which was the cause of our collapse back in 2008. So you want to stay away from subprime mortgages. They're normally offered to folks with very low credit scores, and it's probably in your interest to just wait a while until you build up your credit so that you can get a better type of a mortgage. So those are the basic types of mortgages involved in the home buying process. Now that leads us to fees, charges, and closing costs. Well, these are the financial considerations associated with getting into the house. Okay, first you look at the fees. Now, the lender, being the bank or the mortgage company, may charge you upfront fees, which would be to pay for your credit report and for your appraisal. Then they have charges. Now we call closing cost charges. And settlement on the property that you're going to purchase occurs when all legal documents are signed. The title transfers to you as the new owner. The money is paid to the seller or the builder of the house, and all costs relating to the purchase of the property are paid. Now, settlement charges consist of two categories: your closing costs and your prepaid items. Settlement charges will be estimated for you in a good faith estimate, which the lender is required to provide at or shortly after you complete your mortgage application. This way you know what you're going and getting into and what monies you're going to need. Those closing costs include the cost for title insurance, for legal fees, document preparation, recording fees, transfer taxes, etc. And then you have your prepaid items. The interest on your mortgage loan from the settlement date to the end of that particular month has to be paid at closing. And they also require lump sum amounts to be escrowed for your real estate taxes and your insurance, so that when those bills come due, you have enough money in your escrow account to make those payments. And then after that, amounts are set aside every month from your total monthly mortgage payment to pay your property taxes and your insurance when they become due and payable. So you have to put money into your escrow account in the beginning. For example, if your tax is due on January and you go to settlement in June, then you're going to have to put enough money in your escrow account from June to December, so that in January you got enough money there to make your tax payment. And then you may get a tax bill from the city or from the municipality in which you're purchasing the home. And if you do, you just send that right to your mortgage company so that they can take care of it for you. Now, if your down payment is less than 20%, you may be required to pay private mortgage insurance. What is that? That is a protection to the lender, to your mortgage company or the bank, so that if you were to default on your mortgage, this is a protection that will allow them to help make them whole when they foreclose on the house, sell the house, but then they have the private mortgage insurance to make up the difference. So if your down payment is less than 20%, you may be required to pay that. Also, you might be required to obtain flood insurance. And that's if the property is located in a flood hazard zone that requires flood insurance. So just to sum up, we promised we wouldn't keep you long. Tips to keep in mind when selecting your new home. You want to look at least 3 houses before you make a selection. It may be difficult, but try not to fall in love with that first house. You just never know what else may be out there for you. Now, you also have to take into consideration what the marketplace looks like as well. If it's a seller's market, then you want to be careful, because if you look at a house today, it might be gone tomorrow. But take that into consideration. And then once you select your house and you fill out an agreement of sale and make an offer to the seller, make sure you understand everything in your agreement of sale. If there's something that you have a question about, don't sign it. See your real estate agent, a housing counselor, or an attorney so that they can explain to you anything that you don't understand on your agreement of sale. You want to make sure you have contingency in the agreement that says if you're unable to obtain a mortgage, then your deposit will be refunded to you. And you also want a contingency on a satisfactory professional home inspection. You want to have the home inspected by a professional, and you want to have a contingency in your agreement that if you are not satisfied with that inspection, you can request for the repairs to be done or get a credit for the repairs, or if you're not satisfied at all, you can terminate the agreement and get your deposit back. You want to make sure that once you're into your property, that you make your mortgage payments on time. And then just take into consideration that buying this house is probably going to be the biggest investment you will ever make. So you want to take your time, you want to use sound judgment, and you want to seek advice. As I indicated before, you want to talk to a real estate agent, you want to talk to a housing counselor, or you want to talk to your attorney. But in any event, make sure that you understand the process before you put your signature, your John Hancock, on the dotted line. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate you taking the time. Remember, my name is Lawrence Butler. I'm an associate real estate broker. I'm also the treasurer for the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. So I've been in the business for a while. I've sold a lot of houses, And I would certainly look forward to making myself available to you if you so needed the service. Thank you, and do have a very, very good day.
Oh boy, that was a great presentation by Larry Butler. We appreciate all of the information that he's provided for those that want to buy a house. We encourage you to reach out to him. And now we want to introduce Protecting Your Assets with another Larry, Larry Lewis. He's with Vintage, and he's going to talk about protecting your assets. Larry Lewis.
Hello, my name is Larry Lewis, and first I just want to thank Christian Men Inc. for allowing me to be a part of the Protecting Your Assets seminar. My endeavor today is to go through some of the confusion with Medicare. We all hear about the alphabet soup, Part A, Part B, Part C, D, Plan F, G, and N. Well, in this time that we have together, I just want to kind of go through that and hopefully give you some better understanding of it. So I've been doing health insurance since 1993. And one of the things that I always talk to my individual clients about is health insurance is not as confusing as they make it. I always say you purchase your health insurance plan like you would buy a vehicle. If I'm an insurance agent, which I am, I drive a sedan. It helps me. I've got trunk space. If I want to go out to lunch with my colleagues, I can. But if I were a contractor, I'd probably buy a pickup because I'm not going to put tools in a sedan. So with your health insurance, you want to purchase the plan that is most useful for you. And what I mean by that is, do you have any chronic illnesses? Are there any specialty doctors that you're seeing? And you want to get a plan that caters to that. And that's a big thought consideration when looking at your Medicare as well. So when we're looking at that, keep in mind, you only go and use your medical plan in 3 situations: when you go to the hospital, when you go to the doctor, or when you go to the drugstore. So we're going to talk about all 3 of those in just a quick overview of plans. So if you look at your Medicare, again, these are all the different letters, and there's so many more. We're going to talk about each one of those, but overall, your Medicare is made up of Part A, which is your hospital coverage, Part B, which is your doctors. Now, Part C is a specialized plan offered by private companies, and we'll talk about that, which includes Part A and Part B, but it also gives you, as you can see, Part D, your prescription drug plan. And then we'll briefly talk about how to apply for these. So starting off with Part A, as you can see, Part A with your Medicare is your hospital coverage. That comes to you after you turn 65, or if you've been on a disability for more than 24 months, and that is usually a result of you working a certain amount of time and paying into the Social Security system. This is, again, like I said, for the hospital. Remember, we said you go to the hospital, you go to the doctors, or you go to the drugstore. Well, this is for the hospital services, inpatient care at a skilled nursing facility, inpatient rehabilitation, home health care, or hospice care. Part A is pretty much going to pick up your big ticket items. As we all know, in today's healthcare environment, 2 days at the hospital can cost you upwards of $100,000. Part A is going to cover about 80% of that. And that 20% that is not covered by Medicare, we'll talk about that later. But for now, just understand that the Part A is going to cover your hospital coverage. Next, we're going to the doctor's office, and that's with Part B. That's your doctor's coverage. So Medicare Part B covers services and supplies that don't require hospitalization. It covers you if you go for doctor visits or outpatient treatments as well. Preventative care, such as different screenings and checkups, and also very important, again, we talked about if you have chronic conditions such as diabetes, this will cover your diabetes test strips as well as any medical equipment and durable medical equipment. So we're going to now go off of the Medicare Part A and B. Now, if anyone out there has Medicare, you know on your Medicare card, it says Part A and possibly Part B. So those are the coverages that are governmentally issued by Medicare themselves. The other parts of Medicare are offered by individual private companies. And one very popular plan these days is a Medicare Part C plan. These are the plans that you see advertised on the TV about every other minute or so that have the additional benefits that Medicare Part A and B doesn't cover. These plans also pick up a great portion of that 20% that Medicare doesn't cover. So for instance, we gave the example 2 days in the hospital being $100,000. Medicare would pick up the 80%, but the other 20% could be picked up by your Medicare Part C plan with certain co-pays and deductibles being applied. So when you look at a particular plan, you definitely want to get a good understanding of what are the co-pays and the deductibles. So these plans help you also because they cover, most of them, prescription drug coverage. So as you can see, not only do they pick up the 20%, they also come in and give you the prescription drug plan. And as we had mentioned, you may have to pay co-payments or sometimes deductibles. And also with these plans, you may have to stay within a certain network. But the good thing is they have yearly limits on your out-of-pockets. Again, Medicare leaves a 20% void, but there is no limit on how much of that 20% could land on your doorstep. One of the more traditional ways of filling the 20% void with Medicare is Medicare supplement plans. So far, we've gone through the majority of the alphabet soup, as I called it. We looked at Part A, Part B, Part C plans. Now, there's also the Part D, which is prescription drug coverage, and we'll talk about that next. But the Medicare supplement plans are where you hear such thing as Plan F, Plan G, Plan N, Plan J, or Plan K. And those are the most popular plans, with Plan F being the most popular in existence and Plan G running a close second. And what these plans are, they're plans offered by private companies. Now, these plans are standardized, so it doesn't matter what company you go with, the coverage is going to be the same for a Plan F across the different companies. And with these plans, as we mentioned with the other plans, the Medicare Advantage, the C plans where they have networks, these plans give you broad exposure because you can go to any doctor or hospital in the country that accepts Medicare. So these plans are very good for individuals that may be traveling a lot or just do not want to be regulated to a network. Now, they do not cover prescriptions. So what that means is you would have to purchase a separate prescription plan. The Medicare supplement plans usually run between about $150 to $200 a month, with a prescription plan being about $40. So you're looking about on top end $250, whereas a lot of the Medicare Advantage plans have zero premium. So you're kind of starting to see the differences as to how you make a decision that's best for you. You may say, I don't want a monthly premium because I don't go to the doctors that often. I'd rather pay the $20 copay when I go to the doctors. Or if your situation is different and you say, by the time I pay the copays and deductibles, I'll be spending more money than I would if I got a Medicare supplement plan, plus I would be limited. So these are different considerations that you have to take in mind when you are looking at a plan. Next slide, please. As I promised, we're now looking at the Medicare Part D. These are your prescription drug plans. Now, these plans too are offered by private companies, and in most cases, you would have to have standalone prescription drug plan if you have original Medicare, because as we mentioned earlier, the supplement plans that go in and supplement original Medicare do not cover prescription. But if you go with one of the Medicare Advantage plans, the Part C plans, they typically cover the prescriptions with that plan. So another consideration that you would have to make, that of course I or any agent can help you look at all the options and the pros and cons. So if you decide not to purchase the Medicare Part D plan, this is very important. When you first qualify for it, if you do not purchase it, Medicare will assess a late fee to that. And when you do go to purchase it, you will be penalized for the amount of time that you did not have either a Part D plan or credible coverage either through the VA or possibly an insurance plan from your employer or your previous employer. So again, these are one of the considerations that you really have to be very, very mindful of when turning 65 and looking at how you're going to cover your health insurance costs. Next slide, please. So we looked at all of the different plans and the different parts, and I know it was a lot to digest, but I hope we kind of made it easier by just looking at the different components, giving you some of the things that are covered, some of the things that are not covered, some of the pros and cons. There's also a lot of assistance out there for individuals who are aging into Medicare. And through the states as well as the federal government, they will help you with prescription. And that's usually through the low-income subsidy that the Social Security Administration offers. That will help you, like I said, with the monthly premiums, sometimes the annual deductibles, and as well as the prescription co-payments for prescription only. These subsidies only help with the prescription. And anyone who has Medicare and gets any help from Medicaid, they would automatically qualify and receive these subsidies. Now, looking at these subsidies, we want to understand how one would possibly qualify for it. So part of what they look at, of course, is your income. They're going to look at your unearned income, and they're going to look at that on a monthly basis. And that is going to be looked at on gross monthly income for the unearned income, and unearned income being things such as Social Security or any pensions. But they're also going to look at the earned income, because a lot of seniors these days are working past retirement. So on the earned income, they're going to also look at the gross, but they're going to look at the income on a yearly basis, as well as have there been any changes over the past couple of years. And when taking that in consideration, you have to look at, am I going to work more hours? Am I going to work less hours? And that's what you're going to pretty much put on the application if this is something that you would like to apply for. In addition to income, they are going to look at your assets. Now, Social Security will count any real estate property that is not your primary residence, as well as liquid resources such as stocks, bonds, IRAs, CDs, 401s, which can be or which cannot be converted into cash within 20 days. So they're going to look at those, but what they will not count is your primary residence, motor vehicle, life insurance policies, and $1,500 of the resources of the applicant for an individual with an extra $1,500 for spouse, unless the individual states on the application that he or she or they do not plan to use those resources to pay for funeral or burial expenses, which I have not seen a case like that as of yet, because most of the time in retirement, the resources that you have are to carry you comfortably into retirement, as well as take care of any final expenses, burial, or things like that. So, as a quick summary, we looked at Part A, hospital, Part B, doctors, Part C, which is kind of this hybrid plan, which includes Part A as well as Part D, the drug plan. But we also looked at Medicare supplement plans in the event that you do not want to consider one of the Part C plans, which would pick up that 20%, give you nationwide access to any doctor who takes Medicare, as well as any hospital. And with the supplement, the Part D, which would cover your prescriptions. Applying for any of these plans is pretty straightforward. Matter of fact, you can do it 6 months before turning 65. And around that time frame, you're going to get a lot of mail from Medicare, Social Security, and individual companies like myself representing these plans offering to help you. You should also receive your Medicare card with the Part A and Part B. So, as I said, with these plans, they usually start the month that your Part A and Part B plans start, because they go hand in hand, and that way when you do have the Medicare, once you switch over to Medicare Part A, Part B, either your supplement or your Part C plan would start at that time to make sure that 20% that Medicare does not cover is picked up by either. And you can apply for assistance at the same time the month your Medicare Part A and B starts. And those were the different medical assistance from Social Security to help with prescription drug plans, as well as some of the co-pays and deductibles. So, I just wanted to thank you for this opportunity to go through this with you. I hope it kind of cleared up some of the confusion, but I'm always available for questions or if you need assistance with any of that. And again, I just want to thank you, and especially the Christian Men Inc. for allowing me to take part in this Protecting Your Asset seminar.
I want to thank Larry Lewis for that awesome presentation on Medicare. He really shed some insight on things we need to be thinking about for those that are 65 and those that are eligible for Medicare. Our last speaker of the day, but he's a powerful presenter, and he's going to speak on estate planning, a powerful topic that's needed for us to get our house in order. Let me introduce Bob Warrington.
Hi, everyone. My name is Robert Warrington. First, I'd like to thank Christian Men's Org for putting together this program about getting your house in order. And I'm here to talk about estate planning. I am a licensed attorney in New Jersey, and I practice real estate and estate planning. And what I'd like to do is to just take a few minutes to explain to you the importance of having an estate plan. Next. First, what is an estate plan? Well, an estate plan is your document that talks about how you want to handle the things that belong to you in the event that you are no longer here or you are incapacitated. Next slide, please. And the next one. Next slide. It consists of money, real property, click, personal assets, and business assets if you have a business. Well, you know, how do you make an estate plan? Next slide, please. Next one. It's a plan that covers your lifetime needs of the person who's doing the individual plan, and if you have a family, for your loved ones. And it includes things such as, next one, providing for one's health care, managing one's personal affairs, leaving a legacy, and managing or reducing federal and state taxes in some cases. Next slide. What are the main components of an estate plan? There's a last will and testament, a living will, power of attorney, and trust. Let's talk about each one of these. The function of a last will and testament. You know, too many times people do not have a last will and testament and die in what is called intestate. It causes a lot of problems. Regardless of what the size of your estate is, whether you own just a car, you know, or a few bank accounts, etc., you need to have a last will and testament. It tells folks what you want to have done with your probate assets. And well, what are probate assets? Probate assets are things that you own solely in your name or that have no designated beneficiaries, such as a checking account, a savings account, personal possessions, and your car. And if you have a house that's in your name, that also would be a probate asset. A living will is also sometimes referred to as a healthcare directive, and that is a document that speaks to who you want to make healthcare decisions for you in the event that you are no longer able to make those decisions for yourself. And it specifies, you know, the kinds of care that you would like that person who's going to make these decisions for you think about. Well, the next document is a power of attorney. Now, the power of attorney identifies an individual that you want to take care of your business affairs in the event that you are no longer able to make those decisions for yourself, right? And it then allows that person to stand in your shoes and to handle all of your business, you know, to pay your bills, to receive any monies due you, etc. The next document, well, when you talk about trust, well, what do you use a trust for? There are several things that you can do with a trust. You can use it to reduce your estate taxes. You can, if you pass and you have minor children, you can state who you want to take care of your children, how you want them to be taken care of, who's going to handle the resources for them, etc. And also, you protect your assets from income taxes for the adult heirs. And in some cases, you can even reduce the size of your estate to qualify for Medicaid. So next slide, please. In summary, there are three basic documents that everyone should have: a last will and testament, a living will or healthcare directive, and a power of attorney. The fourth document, i.e. trust, are appropriate for some folks, but not necessarily for everyone. But the main point is that everyone should have an estate plan. Every adult should have an estate plan. Once you are out on your own, you need to have those three basic documents: the last will and testament, a living will, and a power of attorney. Depending upon the size of your estate, you may need to think about setting up trust also. Now that's the basic overview. It's rather important that everyone have an estate plan. It causes quite a few problems when you either pass away or become incapacitated and you do not have the primary documents, the last will and testament, living will, and power of attorney in place. I hope that you found this brief overview helpful, and if I can be of any assistance going forward, you have my contact information in the second slide in this deck. Thank you for your time.
Want to thank all of the presenters today for day one of Christian Men Inc.'s Get Your House in Order. Brothers, we hope that you gleaned at least one thing from one speaker in helping you to get your house in order. Of course, we invite you to tune in tomorrow, 12 o'clock, noon, where we will begin day two of Get Your House in Order, Financial Literacy Virtual Conference. Thank you and thank all of the presenters for today. Enjoy the rest of your day.